We're at Cultus Lake Campground, Deschutes National Forest, Central Oregon. We will go this way for sites 1 through 16 and then back for sites 17 through 54. Today's October 21st, 2025. Closed about 3 days ago, right in that shoulder season. Cascade Lake Scenic Byway gate will be closing the next week or two. Snow is in the forecast, so this is really the last week to come up here and access this area before the annual Snowmageddon. This is 55 sites. Really high quality boat ramp launch, world-class boating lake. Here is site 1. Nice long driveway, good shade. It's about 10 a.m. for bearings, so there might be more sun later in the day. Pretty good old growth forest section of canopy. Got your picnic table, fire pit. You've got your water spigot right there. Here's your nice long driveway. Again, good shade, nice good swath of old growth forest. Centralized fire pit, picnic table. I'd be inclined to probably shade my tent back here. Makes a heck of a lot more sense to me. If you put it straight ahead, now you kind of feel like you're right in the center of the forest. So definitely better privacy, more of a noise muffling effect. I will say you do have a picnic table way off in the distance over there, but actually this isn't bad. This is a pretty good spot right here. So pretty good size. So this was site 1. I will also say you'll have some background noise to the right. People at the boat ramp launch, you'll hear the beep, 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 because you're right kind of up against the infrastructure. But that said, 1's actually decent. Pretty good privacy lines relative to other campsites. Probably a little too close to the infrastructure for my taste, but all in all, decent site as far as quality. And here is numeral dos here on the left. You can see peeking ahead, we got 3 and 4 up there just for bearings. So this one is not as big as 1. 1 had that deeper offset feel. So I would say this is a pretty low square footage footprint here at site 2. We'll also point out as I pan back and show you the avicosity of all these trees, Cultus Lake is definitely an old growth forest wonderland zone. Some of the other campgrounds in this Cascade Lake Scenic Byway are more lodgepole piney, which is kind of the thin little pines. These are definitely thicker, so that yields you a better shade, better canopy overall, which is a good thing. That's in the plus column. So you have your fire pit on the left. You've got your picnic table here on the right. And then as far as where to put your tent, you could either put it straight ahead right there is an obvious spot, or you can try to put it up there a little bit more, but that's starting to be a little bit more exposed. I will pan over here, show you this is the main campground road. 1 is over there. So that was site 2. I gotta say, there's something about this forest. It just feels good. It's like soul and life affirming. I'm here and all of a sudden I just feel great being at this campground. Let me pan back and show you where the sun is for bearings as we continue along to 3. Okay, 3 is here on the right. Again, I'm going to pan back and show you where the sun is. It's always good for orientation. 4 is over there. See that picnic table right there? That's 4. That's the driveway for 4. Here's 3. So it's got a turnabout, fair play style. Great for an RV. You got 1 rock there to be aware of. They should remove that. But beyond that, really big, wide, flat RV turnabout. Got your picnic table and fire pit straight ahead. Again, there's the sun, but this old growth forest is given such strong canopy that I don't think the sun is going to be too much of an issue. And let me come around here and look at our really high quality fire pit. Digging that. So I will say, as far as privacy lines, let me pan up. You see, you got your neighbor right there. I don't know what number that is, but if you're sitting here at your fire pit, you know, I'm roasting marshmallows. I look up and I got my neighbor right there. It's a little suboptimal. I will say this, I'm really falling in love with this old growth forest. I don't mean to be repetitive, but this is really beautiful. I really like this. So as your picnic table up against your roundabouts, the first roundabout and the first 3 campsites. Again, over there is 4. Looks like you got a disposal right over there to be aware of, right next to 4, but right across from your turnabout. So as far as your privacy outlines from 3, you've got 4 over there, but presumably your car might be blocking that. 2's over there, but you can't really see it. 1's over there, you can't really see it. You do have a picnic table straight ahead through those 2 trees right there and a picnic table there. So really your main exposure for 3 as far as privacy lines is that one right there is definitely the worst one in that one. Those are the 2 kind of bad ones. Everything on the opposite side can be mitigated. So kind of a mixed bag as far as the privacy lines for 3. I'm gonna come back over here and just take one last look at it. It's a decent high quality site. Again, here's our sun for orientation. So I think 3's decent. I think the privacy lot lines of the 2 sites straight ahead probably for me would be a deal breaker, but really good shade, really high quality, really nice turnabout for like an RV. Let's continue along to site 4. Okay, so 4 is on the opposite side of our campground road. So this is 4. Remember, 2's down there. It's a little lower, so that's good for privacy lines. A little peak of Cultus Lake. This was 3, your turnabout, picnic table, and some over there. Let's continue along. So 4, you got your disposal right there to the right of 4, so that's good. You got a dumpster over there. Long, flat driveway, very high quality. Should be good for any vehicle. You got your fire pit, picnic table. Let me stop and just pan back, show you the epicosity of this old growth magic. Really good shade. And probably put your tent either like right there or I think to the left of this picnic table, but that might crowd your picnic table a little bit if you like put it right here. I think these are the main 2 spots. So I don't love your tent placement because it kind of feels like you're exposed in the campground here. So you got 3 over there, 2 down there. Now you're kind of near the picnic table for 2, but there's not really anywhere else you can put your tent for site 4. So it's either where I'm standing or on the other side. Also with your parking, you don't want to park all the way up to the end because your car will then kind of be in your livable square footage. So kind of a claustrophobic site. Come over here, our picnic table and fire pit. See, there's our driveway. If you park all the way up to like the fire pit, you're kind of wasting a lot of your best space. So I would probably stop around where those posts are, or maybe where that tree is to the left of the post. Make sure your car stops right there, and then that way this is your livable square footage, and you can maybe put your tent straight ahead. Straight ahead is probably the best spot because at least it is a little bit more private and centered. So as far as over there, this is one of these big campgrounds. It's got 55 campsites, but I don't really see any picnic tables, so you don't have anybody right in your business as far as line of sight. So 4 is pretty good. It's a landlubber site, a landlocked site. But that said, it's actually got decent privacy lines for being an inner site. Again, there's 3 over there, but you probably won't see the picnic table if somebody's got a car parked there, kind of obscuring their picnic table and fire pit. However, this was our sink waste disposal only, right next to 4. It's a dumpster. It's overturned for the year because we are closed. Today's October 21st, and they closed October 18th, 3 days ago. Here is 5. It's a turnabout on the right. Here on the left is the main campground road. Right is the turnabout. I'm checking recreation.gov, but I would assume that would make it RV-orific. You never have to put your RV in R, which is very convenient. It's hard to turn around those big things depending on the size of your RV. So you park here. You've got your fire pit there on the right, picnic table on the left. Low square footage, not a big footprint. And you see, this is what I don't like as far as kind of a cluster, more ways than one. You got a picnic table straight ahead and then one on the right. So I don't know if that's a double or if those are 2 different sites. We haven't gone there yet, but the point is this is a little mosh pitty for my taste. Yeah, you got an awesome turnabout for an RV. Maybe that sells it for you, but you got very low square footage. As far as coming over here, you do have 3 right there. So that's not a good line of sight. Poor privacy. You don't have breakage. As far as flat area to put your tent, probably put it over here is the obvious spot. But now let's see, I have my tent right here. You got 2 picnic tables right there and a fire pit. Maybe that's a double. I don't know what that is, but that's not good. So you have no breakage from that site. Here's our site, great turnabout. And then you got 3 right here. So you're kind of fishbowled between 2 sites. So not the best privacy lines, good shade, not the biggest footprint, really high quality old growth national forest, but not really a fan of 5. I feel like it's more of an RV base camp play, not really an idyllic destination. Okay, so it's a little confusing. That was 5, but then the next one that way is 7. Actually come back over here for 6. Number 4 was up there with the sink only waste disposal. And then here's 6. And got a nice long flat driveway, very wide, big enough for any vehicle. right up to your picnic table, fire pit. I actually like 6. 6 is pretty good because it's right on the end of this section here. Stop and look around. Got a good section of forest, good canopy. As far as where to put the tent, you could put it actually a myriad of places. You could put it straight ahead. This is really nice, high quality. I guess you could put it straight ahead there. This almost feels like a trail system, but no, I think this is just 6. So you could put your tent right there. Bear in mind, you do have the campground road right there, kind of meandering around your entire site like a big U. So that's a little suboptimal for privacy, but you also have this whole flat area over there. So 6 is kind of interesting. It's right in the middle of the campground, so don't get me wrong. Let me show you where the sun is just for orientation. So I'm not saying this is like the most private in the world, but as far as being an inner landlubber site, it's actually pretty good privacy lines. So I cannot complain about 6. 6 is decent. Probably my biggest gripe is just the campground road going all the way around it. It's a bit of a privacy ding, but as far as 4 is up there, and you actually have a pretty good breakage. So you don't actually have really any sites like right in your business, which in a big campground with 55 sites is actually kind of a win. So 6 is actually decent. I would recommend 6. There's far worse. I like 6 better than 5, that's for sure. 6 might be the best one in the first cluster of 6. So let's continue along. It says 10 miles per hour. Drive nice and slow through a campground for safety. And here is site 7 on the right. Remember, that was 5. That's the massive turnabout RV style for 5. But 7 was the one we were looking at from 5, had poor privacy lines. Okay, so here's 7. This is the turnabout, RV style, great shade. You do have another picnic table over there for bearings. You got sites on both sides of the campground road. So from my research, I don't believe Cultus Lakes has any multi/doubles. I think it's all singles. But that said, obviously refer to recreation.gov as the ultimate authority. It does happen to have, it looks like, 2 picnic tables. I think these are both 7. But when I was looking online, I think every site here only had 1 rate, which was the single rate. I didn't see a double rate. So I don't think there's any doubles here. So I think this is just a bonus picnic table. You got picnic table, fire pit, picnic table. No reason to think that's a separate site. I think this is just a BOGO situation for 7. 7's got a really good roundabout for the RV or a couple SUVs. So standing from the opposite side, you get 2 picnic tables and a fire pit. Again, I think this is just a single. I think they're all singles here at Cultus Lake Campground. I will also say and remind you, just up there on the other side of this little cluster of bushes is site 1. So 1 is kind of near 7, so keep that in mind. Really good shade. Pin back, show you the sun for orientation. Several places you could put a tent or 2 right here, a flat area, no trees. Still blown away with this old growth forest, and just the shade is on point. So this is not an area where you got to worry that you're going to be baked all day, because you got great canopy cover. Remember, you have, unfortunately, I'll come over here, get a better view. You got 5 right there. See the picnic table on the right, fire pit on the left. Not the worst in the world, but obviously not idyllic either. If there's a family there, a party there, you're definitely able to hear them and sense them kind of in your edge of your boundary, your personal space. So that's a little suboptimal. But also, I'll say straight ahead over there, you can see a straight line of sight to 3. So you got 3 there, 5 there, and then 7 where I'm standing right now, these 2 picnic tables. So a little suboptimal. So you got 3, 5, 7 kind of all in one group. You do have the water spigot straight ahead, which is nice. You did have several places you could put a tent. That flat old growth forest zone, really good canopy shade. So that's one of the big pluses. And remember, 1 is just on the other side of that hump over there beyond the picnic table. So you'll definitely be able to sense them as well. So you got 3 in your business, 3 different sites in your business. And you also have even people over there. So this isn't the best as far as privacy lot lines, but it's really good as far as like a forest canopy play with a really nice big wide turnabout and water spigot access. So here's a water spigot for 7 in our turnabout. Over there's 9. I'm gonna assume this is probably 8. I can't really make it out. I think it is. It's on the opposite side of 7. Doesn't really have a turnabout, just kind of a big shoulder, big enough for probably a couple of vehicles. Again, I'll pan back. Remember, that was 7, the other side of the campground road. So you park where I'm standing. Got your picnic table. Let me come around here. You got your fire pit on the other side of the picnic table. Again, beautiful section of forest. You do have the campground road on the other side. This is one of my criticisms of these bigger super campgrounds, 55 sites. You got campground road on that side going by you. You got campground road on that side going by you. So just by virtue of having campground roads on both sides isn't the best privacy. You're not up against like a private oasis section of forest. You got a flat area here. You definitely would put your tent right here. Just bear in mind that every car going down the road you're going to hear on both sides. So not the biggest footprint as far as your square footage, kind of a utility base camp situation, not an idyllic destination site. Serviceable, but not great because the roads, not really a lot of sites like staring at you. So it doesn't have a neighbor right in your business, but it also doesn't really have that idyllic quality. So we will continue along to numero 9, otherwise known as 9. On the left here is our campground road. There's a restroom down there. That's nice. Straight ahead is the restroom on the left. Here's 9. Another one of these really high quality, wide, flat turnabouts, presumably for an RV. Check recreation.gov. Here's our picnic table and fire pit. I will say, I think I like 9 better than 7. It's only got 1 picnic table and fire pit, but 7 was too close to 5 and 3 and 1. 9's a little bit more offset. Does look like there's another one straight ahead right there. So it's not perfectly private, but a little bit better. So picnic table, fire pit. Probably is put my tent, I'm thinking straight ahead over here. This feels like the natural spot. A lot of times these campsites actually kind of have like a natural place you feel like you're supposed to put your tent. Right here or right over there are like 2 spots. So here's 9. Let me pen back, show you the Epgostius old growth forest. Again, you're right next to the restroom right there, and you have your neighbor right there. It's a little close. I don't love having the neighbor right there, so that's a kind of a privacy ding. Restroom proximity could be good or bad. It's good for your own access. It's bad if people are going at 2 in the morning and slamming the door and waking you up from your tent while you're trying to get your beauty sleep. So that's a mixed bag. Could be viewed as an asset or liability depending on your attitude. So that was 9. Really is a beautiful section of old growth forest. I'm digging that. One of the reasons why I do these walkthroughs, these virtual walkthrough campground reviews, is I'm trying to separate the wheat from the chaff. I'm trying to find the idyllic campsites versus the serviceable base camp sites. I mean, everything here is high quality and like a serviceable base camp if you're boating, hiking, want to be in Deschutes National Forest to explore this Wonderland zone. But I'm trying to find those few destination sites where you actually want to spend the whole day at the campsite, you know, reading your iPad or just enjoying the forest. Here is site 10. Doesn't have a turnabout, has just a very flat little driveway. There's your picnic table, fire pit, not a lot of square footage. Again, I'll pan back over here just to show you. You've got your restroom, you got a dumpster, overturned for the season. We're 3 days past the end of the season. So you park here, you've got really good shade on the heart of your campsite, not a ton of square footage, but picnic table, fire pit, great place to put your tent over there. Great shade for your tent, but look, it's got a primrose path over to your neighbor over there. I don't know what number that is yet, 11, 12, whatever it is. So you got a line of sight right there. So the design of the site makes you want to put your tent over here, but the farther you come over here, actually you got bang, bang, you got 2 picnic tables in a row here, 2 more sites. So the more you shade over here, the more you're going to get noise from these people, whoever's staying there. Keep that in mind. So not a huge area, really good shade though, one of the better shade ones. I will also say, remember we were just looking at 9 over there, so you got 9 there. So you got privacy violations on both sides. You got line of sight with your neighbors on both sides. Really good old growth forest, good shade, but not the best privacy lines. You could also put your tent over here. That might actually be better than my first instinct, because at least if it's over here now, well, let's see here. Now if you're standing right here, then you're looking over at 9 right there. So choose your adventure. If you put your tent over there under those trees, you're shading over to that site. If you put it back here, now you've got a straight line of sight over to 9. So there isn't like a perfect place, but either one of those would work. Again, great shade. It's probably about 10:30 a.m. You're right next to the restroom, which could be good or bad depending on if you want your own access or you got people slamming the door in the middle of the night waking you up. So that's a matter of perspective and how frequently you need to use the restroom, et cetera, based on who's in your party. So we will continue along. Okay, so it looks like this is 11 for bearings. We were just coming from 910 this way, Campground Road. There's a restroom still over there. This is 11 and this is 12. Got a little preview of 12 from 10, but we will stay numerically consistent, do these in order. Here's 11, you park here. My car would be right here. Very low square footage, kind of a weird footprint, frankly, because you got your picnic table and fire pit. You're kind of centered looking at the restroom. I don't like how this is situated relative to the Campground Road, because if you're just sitting here, you're just kind of sitting right next to the road, goes right by you. Feels like you're a feature along the road. I don't really like it. It doesn't have that private destination worthy quality. So here's your fire pit. Imagine if you're just like sitting here, you're essentially just kind of sitting on the edge of the Campground Forest Road. Every car that goes by you, I don't really like that. It doesn't have that destination quality. Also, from your picnic table, you do have a straight line of sight to that picnic table. Probably put your tent over here. This is the natural flat spot to put it. But remember, if your tent's right here, you got the restroom right there for like this big cluster of campsites. So everybody going to the restrooms walking right by you, and you'll hear the door opening and closing. So I gotta say, I'm not the biggest fan of the footprint of 11 as far as this design, both the privacy lines as well as proximity to the restroom, as far as almost being a feature of the Campground Road. So not a big fan of 11, keeping it real. I wouldn't do 11. Next is 12, back on the other side of the Campground Road. We've got one over there, we got one over there. So nice long driveway, that's a win. I like the driveway. You got one through there, that was 10, but it does at least have a little bit of breakage with the trees, so that's good. It does have a primrose path between the two of them, see? I mean, you can walk through that right to their picnic table, so be aware of that, but at least it's not like a direct money shot, but you can definitely sense if there's people there. Here is our picnic table. So I would put my tent over here. Let me just stop and pan back and show you the epicosity of Deschutes National Forest. So if our tent's over here, let's look back. There's our picnic table, there's our fire pit. You do have your neighbor over there. Some breakage, but also definitely be able to hear and sense them. Again, picnic table, fire pit. You also got your neighbors right over there. You got the restroom over there. You got 11. You can see the picnic table for 11 over there. So beautiful section of forest. I don't love the layout for 12. Kind of feels open, and you do have literally triangulation sites in all three directions, and there's actually one over there. So you'll actually be able to count 4 or 5 different parties at their picnic table, direct line of sight from your picnic table. Let's do the math. 1, actually 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so you got 5 different picnic tables that you can sense from your picnic table. That to me is a little triangulated for my taste. So I don't mean to be so negative, but I'm looking for idyllic destination campsites. Haven't found one so far in the first 12. This is a serviceable base camp, great for some world-class hiking and boating in a beautiful area. I love this forest. The Deschutes National Forest, my favorite forest in Oregon, but I haven't really found like a idyllic dream destination one yet. So here's 13 on that side of the road, and then here's 14 on that side of the road. We'll stay numerically consistent. We'll do 13 next. So here's 13. Nice long driveway. Great shade. Could just be that it's 10:30 in the morning, but this feels outstanding shade-wise. It's a little cold. It's about 31 degrees right now, so I am definitely freezing. Here's our picnic table and fire pit. Pan over here. So 14's over there, but it's a bit offset. Your cars will probably block, so that's not bad. So here's our fire pit. Let's go over and look at the view from our picnic table. So probably my biggest concern about 13 is you got a straight shot over there to 11. No line of sight breakage. And I don't really like it oriented where I'm sitting here on my picnic table. You know, I'm sitting here having my meal, and I look up and I feel like I'm just staring at another party at their picnic table. So maybe their car would be blocking their picnic table. That would be a saving grace, but I don't know. I'm not really a fan of that. Also, you got another picnic table over there. The one over there isn't bad. That's 14. That's at least blocked. But you got your friend 12 there, your friend 11 there. So this is a bit of a cluster of campsites. Great shade, great canopy, great old growth forest, world-class zone. You can even sense from here through the other side, off in the distance, scope shot, Cultus Lake. So you're getting the silhouette of the lake, which is nice. But Good shade, not like a dream site, very serviceable base camp. You go boating or hiking and come stay here, you're gonna enjoy it. So it's not like horrible, but it's also not like dream. This is all very like B level, like C plus, B minus, B. That's kind of what all this is so far. No like A's, you know, I don't really rate campsites, but that just gives you a frame of reference where my head's at. Like there's not anything that's magic yet, but it's all just decent. Here's 14. Again, that was the campground road. The restroom over there was 12. A little bit of a roundabout for your parking, which is interesting. Not really RV size, more just like vehicle size. Check recreation.gov. There's our picnic table fire pit. Kind of weird how it's cut here to the left. Got a little grove of trees here. It looks like as far as privacy lines, you're okay in this direction. I mean, there are some picnic tables on the other side of that, but that's not bad. I can live with that. So probably our biggest problem with privacy on this one is probably just 12 right there. 12 there, and then remember 13 over there and 11 there. But this one's actually not bad. This is an interesting inner landlubber site, as I would say. Also, the picnic table is like really high, which I appreciate. Come back and show you what I'm talking about. Like, see, that's an unusually elevated picnic table. I dig it. So if you're tall, you might like site 14 because that's a better than average picnic table. That's very comfortable. So standing here, I'll show you the roundabout of 14. It's unusually like shaped like a boomerang. It's not like a half circle, it's like a boomerang. So that's why I don't know if an RV would really be able to do this turnabout, because I don't know if you can make that turn. Feels like more for like an SUV or a car. It's also not a very big square footage site. A picnic table, fire pit. As far as where to put your tent, you got the slope right here. I don't know where else to put it. Like if you, this is probably a negative for 14. If you try to put your tent over here, like where I'm standing right now, it would make sense. It's the only flat spot really accessible by 14 with their picnic table fire pit over there, because right there is curved. You could put it right there, but it's definitely curved on a slope. But if you come over here, look how close now I am to our new close trusty best friend site 12. So the more you come over here, like you wouldn't want to put it where I'm standing, because now let's say you go to bed at dark and they stay up till 10 or 11, you know, drinking and partying and being raucous and loud, then you can't go to bed until they're done talking. You can hear every word from your tent. So you really wouldn't want to shade it to where I'm standing, but this is the only flat spot for 14. So that's an issue. I guess if you put it over here, you're on a slope, an incline, that's for sure. So this is not flat. You just have to accept that. Well, I guess you could put it right here. Here's quasi flat, not really big enough for a full-size tent. So not the best land. This whole area's got a gentle enough slope that you're going to notice it in your tent. So something to be aware of. That was 14. 14 does not have an ideal tent placement. It's kind of a miss on that one. Let's continue along. So here is 15, and it's a nice flat parking and really nice section of old growth national forest, Deschutes National Forest. Pin back to show you the epicosity. I'm digging the vibe. It's got a good feng shui. Just to look back, that's where the Cultus Lake is. A little silhouette of the lake from 15. Not really a viewpoint, but just a sense of the lake. Namuz Bush. So a picnic table fire pit right there. As far as where to put your tent, you got two spots. You can either put it right here. The more you shade over here, you're starting to get over to 13 and the campground road. Be aware of that. Probably would put my tent, now that I've had the time to contemplate, right over here. This is the perfect spot. So if you put your tent here, you've at least offset it a bit from the campground forest road. You're kind of centered, and you do feel like you're in the middle of like a gorgeous section of Deschutes National Forest. There is a campground road, but that's on the far side. That's far enough that it's not up in your business, up in your grill. So actually, this isn't bad. I'm digging 15. This is centrally located. It's definitely an inner landlubber site, like all these are so far. Probably your biggest privacy concern is right over here on the left. You got another site, but from where I'd put my tent, it's not really an issue. From my picnic table right here, you can definitely have a straight line of sight. Not idyllic, but actually not horrible. You could do much worse in most campgrounds. So 15 is one of the best sites here so far, my humble opinion. I'm digging 15. I think 15 is a winner. Let's continue along. Come over here, you got a nice long driveway. Yeah, really long driveway. Geez, this is great. Also say, like, this is a beautiful section of National Forest. Don't mean to be a broken record, but I'm blown away by Deschutes National Forest. This is beautiful. So really long driveway, picnic table, fire pit on the right, gorgeous zone. You did have 15 over there, but you have decent line of sight breakage. It's not the end of the world. Just show you the bearings. If I'm sitting at my picnic table, here's my fire pit. I really like that big log kind of on the back on the other side of the picnic table. You can strewn about your gear there, almost use it as a seat too. If you got a lot of people hanging out, people can lean up against it. So those type of little things make a big difference, kind of make it a communal environment. I'm digging it. So 16 and 15 were the last two for this loop. Because they're on the end of the loop, they actually had better than average privacy lot lines. So I was pretty impressed by 15 and 16. Move on to the next loop. So we just did sites 1 through 16 that way. Let's go do 17 through 54 this way. It says no day use beyond this point, registered campers only. Campground full, but that's not true because it is closed. That's the road to get back. It says do not enter. There's a sign here because we are closed. This campground closed 3 days ago. Today's October 21st, 2025, closed October 18th, 2025, before they likely close the Cascade Lake Scenic Byway Gate. And this area gets its annual snowmageddon for the next 8 to 9 months and is totally inaccessible. But taking advantage of this narrow window, come do a campground review before they shut it down. Another thing to be aware of, it says boat-in campground parking. There are 3 boat-in campground sites on the far end of the lake. There are bookable at recreation.gov as well. You do parking over here, and then you launch from your kayak, canoe, whatever you have, with your backpack, with your tent. You go over there. Kind of a cool concept. Highly recommend doing that. Super fan. Another place to do that is Sparks Lake, Waldo Lake. Really cool concept. So we are coming up to site 17. Ooh, I gotta stop and just pan back. Look at these trees, particularly that big one. Got that leaning tower of pine thing going on. The 17, really well paved. Probably the first paved campsite of the first 17. Got your picnic table, fire pit on the left. So I already tell you, this loop has got a different vibe. 1 through 16 had a certain vibe. This is a little bit more in the center of the zone, so it's a little bit more fishbowled. We just pan around. There's the sun for orientation. Here's the campground road. Some more sites over there. Here's fire pit, picnic table. Probably put my tent straight ahead. It's the only spot you could put it. We'll walk over to where my tent is. So my tent is presumably right here. You got a straight shot to the restroom. That's good if you want to use it. It's bad if you hear other people slam the door, particularly in the middle of the night. Here's your picnic table, fire pit. You're kind of in the center of the action. You got a bunch of picnic tables over there and over there. So kind of a different feel, different vibe. The 1 through 16 loop had a very specific vibe. As soon as I got over to 17 and 54, totally different vibe. I feel like I'm at 2 different campgrounds, frankly. So 1 through 16 felt a little bit more quaint, private, secluded. This feels a little bit more like a central mosh pit camping situation. Everything's very open and exposed, so keep that in mind. I do have to say, just this tree is awesome. Like, look at this. Oh, let me go all the way back, see if I can grab the whole thing. That's amazing. So that's 17. Let's continue along. Also, the first paved site of the first 17. The 1 through 16 didn't have any paved sites. So I'll keep going this way, the way of the vehicle. Got the restroom over here beyond 17, presumably over here next to 18. Really high quality old growth national forest, great shade. I'm digging the area. Again, look at, there's like a ponderosa pine straight ahead. I will pan back. So it's like, this has got some really high quality trees. If you're a tree fan, that like clearly I am, then this place is special. And here is 18. 18 is legend for shade. If you're one of these people who's like, you know what, I don't even want to worry about sunscreen, then 18 might be the site for you, because this is pure shade. I mean, like, I don't know if this ever gets sun. Picnic table, fire pit, really epic central old growth forest tree right there. Pretty awesome. It's like an Erd tree. It's amazing. Again, picnic table, fire pit, low square footage, keeping it real. Like, you've got the main campground road right there. So every car coming down this road, you're going to have the headlights like flashing to right where I am, blinded by the headlights, and they'll be driving by here. So not the best as far as the campground road, but you got world-class shade. You know, of course, always probably bring your sunscreen, but this is a site you probably don't need it at. Picnic table, fire pit. I'll look back up just to see maybe if the sun's way up there at 2, 3 in the afternoon, whenever it is, you get some direct sun, but it's probably shaded 80, 90% of the time. So pretty good shade. As far as where to put your tent, I think you have to put your tent right here, probably the only spot. So you put your tent right here. Again, every car coming down this road is having their headlights right into your sight. So that's kind of a problem, but your shade is world class. So that's nice. We'll also say just on the other side of here is 17. So there is the picnic table for 17. So 17 is kind of in your business. You don't have the best privacy lot lines with 17. Kind of a weird site. I think the headlights right into your sight is a deal breaker for me, but the shade is top notch, and proximity to the restroom right there is top notch. So a couple W's. So again, different strokes, different folks. Choose your own adventure, what you prioritize. I happen to have a privacy lot line bias, so that's where a lot of my analysis goes, but a lot of people don't care about that. So if that's not your driving force, then you have different criteria, which is totally wonderful. Okay, so here is water spigot, and here's our next site. This is presumably 19. Yes, it is 19. That means 20 is probably that one over there. So just bear in mind there's a picnic table right there and a roundabout right there for our next one. And here's 19. Kind of goes a little lower below the Campground Forest Road, so that's nice. Good shade. This has a good feng shui to it. Sometimes you walk into a site, you just feel good. I'm getting that vibe. You just pan around so you can get a sense of it. It's kind of interesting. The fire pit's interesting because it's kind of right up against the Campground Road, and it's right up against this water spigot, as you can see. So people come over the water spigot from other sites. They're coming, whatever that is, 12, 15 feet from your fire pit. That's a little suboptimal, keeping it real. But if you're at your fire pit here, I'm sitting right now roasting marshmallows, and I'm just kind of staring at the water spigot in the Campground Road. So that's a little weird placement, but is what it is. Looking back at our picnic table, as I said, this area's got a nice feng shui to it. Pan back, show you the shade. Pretty cool, actually. I'm digging it. And come over here. Probably put my tent straight ahead right there. That's pretty much the only place it would go. You got this big log here. Yeah, this is kind of a weird one, I will say. I like it, I'm digging it, but problem is if you put your tent over here, which is kind of the natural spot, now you're coming over to your buddy right here. So I generally don't like shading my tent towards the next site, because then you obviously have privacy concerns from your tent. So you could put it right there, but that doesn't really help you. You're still getting even closer, frankly, to that picnic table. So kind of an interesting eclectic site. Like when I walk up to it, I felt good feng shui wise, but the more I look at the analyze the elements, I'm starting to like dislike it a little bit more. You got your fire pit right up against the road and the spigot right there. You don't really have anywhere to put your tent other than right there or right where I'm standing. You got a neighbor right there, and then lo and behold, you got a neighbor right there. So you got neighbors on two sides, and it feels cool to be here, but it doesn't really use the space very well. Pretty good shade, good old growth forest, but the more I got in this site and really thought about it, the less I liked it, frankly. So I'd rather that fire pit not be so close to the water spigot and the Campground Road. So I know I'm being hyper picky, but that's why we do the walkthrough, is to separate the wheat from the chaff, the creme de la creme. So that was 19, here's 20. 20's got roundabout on the right. 20, I can already tell just standing here, probably like 11 o'clock, it looks more exposed as far as sunshine and SPF and sunscreen. So you park here on the right, roundabout, check to see if it's RV at recreation.gov, probably is, I would guess. And you have your fire pit, picnic table, very exposed. We just did a series that were very well shaded, like the last few were shaded, 19, 18, 17. This is the opposite. This is probably one of the most exposed ones we've seen at the whole campground so far. So keep that in mind. Look over here. Probably put my tent exactly where I'm standing right now. Fire pit, picnic table. So this is very sunny. You do have the Campground Road going that way. going right by your site. You don't really have, this one almost feels a little bit more naked after the last several where I was like, I feel like I was deep in the forest. All of a sudden I feel like I'm just standing like in an opening. So it's just a different vibe. So look over there, that one over there, 19 is completely shaded. Then here we are standing at 20 and all of a sudden we're like out in the open. A little bit different vibe. That could be a good thing. Definitely get a lot more sun, definitely need the SPF, the sunscreen on this one. But this one doesn't really have much going for it because it's just so open. It's like an opening in the forest. And with the campground going right next to you, let me pan back and just show you the sun. So you got the sun beaming on you. So I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of 20. I do like the ones that have more shade. If you're gonna be in an old growth wonderland like this, Cultus Lake, Deschutes National Forest, I'd rather at least leverage that old growth forest and have some good canopy control when I'm in the sun, not be forced to be in the sun all day. Here's 21. I will also say this, looking back, if you stay at 20, you probably want to bring like a 10 by 10 awning or something that allows you to control that you're in the shade. Because if you just sit there, you're going to literally be like in the sun for 8 or 10 hours and you're going to get burned unless you got sunscreen. Here's 21. Nice long driveway, not a turnabout, but a long driveway you have to reverse out of. Again, more shade, which is nice. Old growth Deschutes National Forest. Picnic table fire pit, not the best square footage footprint, like not a lot of usable square feet. In fact, very low square footage. Like the placement for the fire pit, nice central location. What I don't like is the proximity here of 21 to 19. 19 was that eclectic one that felt good when I walked up to it, but once I really thought about it, actually wasn't that great. So you're basically sitting at your picnic table staring at 19, and you got your friends right over there. So little suboptimal. I will say you've got a sink waste disposal only right there on the right, so that's convenient, but you're kind of staring at 19. You can see 20 over there, and you got another one back there, 22 or 23, whatever that is, we'll find out. So this one is very triangulated, low square footage, not a lot of usable space. Probably have to put your tent right there, like right over here where I'm standing. This is like the only spot it could go, there or over there. But the more you're shading over there, now you're getting way too close to 19 as far as noise from your tent. So I would skip 21. Poor square footage, poor footprint, poor layout, poor design, and not good privacy lines with about 3 or 4 other sites. But beyond that, it was great. There's your spigot just on the edge of 21. So here's another sink waste disposal only. So they were not shy dispersing those around the campground, which I appreciate. Here is 22. Presumably as we go down there, that's 23 and on to 54. So 22, driveway, got your fire pit picnic table. I like the centrally located fire pit, centrally located picnic table. So I'll stop here and pan back. Again, some epic trees. I'm digging this. You can see where the sun is. So a little bit more exposed. Depending on the time of day, we'll have different shade levels. I'm sure once the sun gets past this group of trees, it's direct sun. So definitely need the SPF sunscreen. A little bit more open and exposed. As I said, sitting from your picnic table, you do have the straight line of sight to 21. So be aware of that. You also have a direct line of sight to 20. Beautiful section of forest. I mean, look at this. This is beautiful. And you got the sink disposal conveniently located right here, but other people will be coming to drop off their stuff. So interesting. Kind of open, like you see right across the way, this is the campground road. So you got the campground road there. So there's something just open and exposed about this that I intuitively am probably biased against, just because it doesn't feel very private. It feels kind of just in the center of the action, which some people love. I'm a personality type that I don't love. I'd rather be on the edge of the campground in the corner around like a cluster of trees, my own little private swath oasis. That's much more appealing to me than being like in the heart of the action. You got campground roads on both sides and headlights, and it's just not my jam. Here's 23. Here's 23. Nice long driveway. Picnic table fire pit. I actually like this a little bit better because we're at least on the edge of this part of the forest. I like it when the back of your campsite is forest like this appears to be. Gives you more of a swath and more of a feeling that you're actually in the middle of the forest. When you got campground roads on both sides, you feel like you're just in the middle of a parking lot, which kills the dream and vibe for me personally. So fire pit, picnic table. Oh yeah, see, this is nice. I love being able to just kind of go back into the forest And, you know, it just kind of escape into that forest wonderland mindset, which I'm all about. I love forests. So for bearings, there's your sun. There's one way off in the distance. That's not too bad. Here's your Campground road, which isn't too bad either. And because we're right up against the forest, it definitely has a little bit more privacy sense. There's stuff over there, but it doesn't look too close. There's your fire pit and picnic table again. So not to be repetitive, but I really like being up against the back of the forest here. That makes all the difference in the world to me. I don't like being next to the campground roads. My personal opinion. I will also say, probably put the tent straight ahead there. So that's the natural spot. So this is actually a pretty good one. This is a little bit of a hidden gem, I gotta say. I'm digging this one, all things considered. So that was our main campground road. That was 23. 23 is actually a little bit of a hidden gem. I like 23. I wasn't expecting that, but it's actually really high quality just the way the lot lines are. So pretty impressed. I will say that when you're at a big campground like this, 55 sites, you get caught in kind of these logistics clusters where you got campground roads and, you know, sink only waste disposals and water spigots and dumpsters and restrooms. Oh my. And you got all this stuff. And you end up feeling like you're just camping in a parking lot. So if you can be up against the forest, at least you get that, you know, feeling that you're in an alpine forest wonderland, which is kind of at least what I covet. So something to keep in mind. Here's 24. Kind of interesting. You got a roundabout. Let me just pan around for bearings. 25 is right there. So again, let me reset. That's our campground road. That is 25 on the other side. We'll get to that in a minute. Here's 24. Here's our roundabout. We're right up against this section of road. So this isn't the best privacy lot lines because of that. Fire pit, picnic table, kind of a low square footage area, pretty good shade. Probably put my tent straight ahead, which is a natural spot. You could put your tent right here. There's another flat spot straight ahead, but look how close the neighbor is over there. So the more you shade over here, no pun intended, the more you're getting closer to the neighbor. So you could try to put your tent over here to get away from this road behind me, but the closer you get, like if your tent was right here, now you're starting to get a little uncomfortably close to these people, so this side. So a little bit of a decision dilemma. I'd probably be more inclined to put my tent over here, closer to my picnic table, like maybe right here. This feels better spacing wise. Yeah, you got 25 there, you got whatever number that is over there, and you have this logistics road right here, the little gate currently closed. So not really loving 24. I thought 23 over there, even though it's on the other side of this road, was offset from the road. You can't really sense the road from the site. I thought 23 was a gem. 24, not so much. Keeping it real. That's why it's valuable to come actually walk these my own two eyes doctrine. You never really know what are the good sites until you come physically see them. That's why I call it my own two eyes doctrine. You can spend hours online analyzing, recreation.gov, and you never really know until you come see it. That's why I do these virtual walkthrough campground reviews. Here's 25, nice long flat driveway, not a turnabout, but any car should be able to handle this. Really long and flat. And here's our picnic table on the left, fire pit on our right. Kind of a weird vibe here because we're right like in the center of the campground. Like, look at this. I don't like the feng shui of this, not to be too hippy dippy, but it just gives a vibe. Like, you just kind of feel like you're right in the center of a cluster of action, and you can see in every direction a series of campsites. It's not really my jam. So I can see several picnic tables over there. You can see one right there. So this is kind of a cluster base campground zone, a lot different than the 1 through 16, which I frankly like better, a little bit more in my speed, my personal bias. So again, this is 25. That was 24, which I also didn't like. I like 23 over there. You got a neighbor right here. We'll see that coming up the loop, but that's a little close for comfort from my fire pit. I can see picnic table over there, got over there. So I'm not really digging 25. Not a lot of usable square foot. As far as where to put your tent, I mean, the flattest area, I feel like, is right here, but now you're getting close to 24 and you're right up against the campground road. I generally don't want to put my tent up against the campground road. Where else could you put your tent? You don't really want to shade that way because of that picnic table. I guess you can put your tent, okay, I guess over here is the spot, right straight ahead. Like, you could put your tent right here. But so now what I don't like about this is, look, You got a picnic table there, you got a picnic table there. So you are absolutely clustered. There's our sink wastewater disposal. There's our fire pit, another picnic table, our picnic table. So I really don't like the lines of 25. This is starting to get that, I call these inner loop, which by definition are always lower quality, and I call them landlubber sites, like you're landlocked. And because they're trying to cram as many in a small area, they end up kind of being fishbowled. If you can see 4 or 5 or 6 sites from your site, then that's not premium camping in my humble opinion. Here's our spigot, and continue along. 26 on this side, 27 on this side. I think I'll like 26 better just because it's on the outer loop and it's a little bit more private. So here's 26. A little bit of a turnabout, but kind of a weird angle. It might be a little difficult for some cars. Might have trouble with the Mini Cooper right there, but Subaru or above would be able to make it just fine. Picnic table, fire pit. Let me come over here. Good news is we're up against the back of the forest, so you can shade back this way and feel like you're up into a privacy land. So that's a win. This is the outer loop, so keep that in mind. So I'd probably put my tent right here-ish. Look back, show you really epic shade and trees. So you do have, it was 24 right there, but that's a decent distance. Not a lot of usable square footage. It's okay. Decent shade, decent canopy, not the best layout, but also not a horrible, like mid-tier here, I'd say, is 26. You could do worse. I will also say, look at that. You got your neighbor right there. So that's probably the biggest flag on the field, because I was talking about enjoying being up against this forest, but that's a little mitigated by having people right there. I wish there wasn't somebody right there. So now that I've analyzed it, I'm actually not liking 26. Mid-tier might be generous. That's probably bottom third, 26. So it's tough when you come to these bigger campgrounds. Like, it's a beautiful area, world-class boating, world-class hiking, great base camp, but not really perfectly, carved, manicured, idyllic destination campsites. This is so far a base camp logistics play type camping situation. Here's 27, and it looks like I've got 28 over there, but we'll look at 27 first. Decent flat driveway. I just tell you right now, I don't want to be a broken record. That's no fun to listen to, but I'm probably not going to like a lot of these on this inner loop. I mean, look, this to me is atrocious. This is our picnic table. This is our fire pit. And look at our neighbors right here. Like, ooh, there's that little log right there. It doesn't really do much for you as far as your privacy lot line separation. So like, if I'm standing right now at my fire pit roasting marshmallows, I don't know what that is, 20 feet away, no breakage in the line of sight. You got a neighbor right there. You've now been thrust into an involuntary social experiment where your family and that family are now being forced to cohabitate in a small area. So I don't really like being in a forced social experiment. I kind of want some privacy. That's why I bother coming out to the forest. I spend time with my family. So yeah, that's a hard no for me. I'll come around and do this from the actual picnic table. So I'm sitting at my picnic table and I'm like staring. I'm having a staring contest with my neighbor next to me. So I won't be too repetitive, but I don't like this inner loop. These are all persona non grata to me. These are all deal breakers. Not a fan. Here is 28. And over there is 29 for bearings. So decent quality roundabout. So you park here. So now 28 might be a hidden gem. Remember, we did have, I think that was 26 over there. But come back here, you're right up against the back of the forest, which is a huge plus. That preserves the dream that, I've come out to the middle of the forest. I'm camping in the middle of nowhere in the forest. Just myself and the chipmunks, which is what I'm looking for. And you got the picnic table. Look at this. This is great. See, this is what I'm talking about. You got just pure forest behind you. That's what I like. If you got a bunch of little kiddos and you want them to be able to run around and get their yayas out, you want to be right up against the forest like this. So this is a win. Here's our picnic table. I'm now sitting at the picnic table. There's our fire pit. So yeah, we've got somebody straight ahead. So between those trees, you've got the picnic table. So that's just a little close. That's like a minor privacy violation. That's suboptimal. That's probably the one ding against 28. But the roundabout was decent quality. And you're right on the edge of the forest. As I said, if you've got like kids, you want to get their yayas out. I will also say the way this is built, look how flat this is. I really like this. You can put your tent over here, and I really like the play of shading towards the forest when you're up against the back of the forest. So this is a beautiful forest wonderland zone you can play in. I'd probably put my tent right here, and now you've shaded away from the campground road, away from the heart of the campground. You do have your neighbor right there, as I said, 26. That's probably your one minor strike, but I can live with that. Put your tent here, and you've really maximized your square footage. Like, you feel like you got a swath of alpine forest that is your domain. So 28, this is one of the best ones so far in the 17 to 54 loop. I really like 28. I would probably recommend 28. It's definitely top tier for this zone. I mean, I always really like being up against the forest like this, because it just feels like an extension of your boundaries of your property, and you can go out and play in that area, and it just feels like a natural extension, your backyard, as it were. I would recommend 28. I think it's arguably the best, or one of the best. I think 23 and 28 are the two best in this loop so far. Okay, for bearings, here's our main campground road. Here's 29. Here's a continuation of our campground road. This is landlubbers, so I'm already a little pessimistic, but we'll give it a fair shake. Inner loop, park here. So remember, this is that base camp cluster zone, which I really find offensive, frankly, as an avid camper. So you got the two over there that I already highlighted that are just like right on top of each other. Here's the 29 we're looking at. You got your fire pit picnic table. Look right there. You got another fire pit and picnic table. That for me is a deal breaker, way too close. Put your tent right here. This is a flat area. So at least your fire pit is shaded away from the other side, but still, or I guess you could put your tent straight ahead here. So you got two spots you could put your tent. If you put your tent where I'm standing right now, you do have the campground road going around you. See, campground road goes that way, all the way around. At least you're a little farther away. Here's our site. Here's our parking. There's the main campground road. I don't like how close your buddy is across the way. So here's your fire pit. Here's your picnic table. I'll show you from our picnic table, our new close trusty friend, again, that social experiment, forced to cohabitate with strangers. See, I don't know what that is, 25, 30 feet away, something like that. A little close for comfort. If I'm sitting here with my family and there's another family right there, you feel like you're hanging out with strangers, whether you want to be or not. It's kind of hard not to hear every word both parties say, and that's such a deal breaker, violation, privacy thing for me. I would just never put myself in that situation. So that's a hard no for me. And as I said, you can put the tent there, you can put the tent there, but the privacy lines in these inner ones are absolute killer. I hate them. Killer in a bad way. So that was 29. One thing about my campground reviews, I'm not being paid to do any of this, so I'm calling balls and strikes. You know, I'm not here to just like sell any given campground. I'm not here to, even though I love Deschutes National Forest, I'm not like here to, sell for Deschutes National Forest, pretend every site's like the most amazing thing I've ever seen. So I call it as it is. I call balls and strikes. I point out the sites I like, sites I don't like, and the real reasons why, for better or worse. That's why I do these, is to be honest. So it is what it is. I really don't like that inner cluster over there. That's the worst, the weakest part of the campground to me. Frankly, I liked the 1 to 16 loop better. And then once we got to 17 to 54, it's a different vibe that I don't like as much. Even in 17 to 54, I like 23 and 28 the best. Not like idyllic, but serviceable. Okay, moving on to the next one. So I believe this is 30. Yeah, I think this is 30. So one good thing, a little trick, is see how we had to walk a long way from 29? That is normally a yield of better privacy. So we like that we had to walk a long way. That means better spacing. So here's 30, really high quality roundabout, picnic table, fire pit. Ooh, this might be a hidden gem. Right up against the forest. And I'm not seeing, you got a picnic table over there, but that's pretty far away. I can live with that. This is actually pretty good. I mean, you've got the intersection of the campground road. I can live with that too. This is pretty good. I'm liking 30. This is part of your domain. You got this big swath of forest, which is pretty, good shade, old growth forest, centrally located fire pit, picnic table. As I said, you've got your neighbor straight ahead there, but that's not bad. That's far away. Your car is in between you, and they have trees on the other side, far enough away that that's not a flag on the field. So 30 is good. I would recommend 30. I'm digging 30. Come here to our picnic table. Yeah, oh, and they did a real good job. You see how they left the trees here? Like you can't even see your neighbor there. So A plus on that from their design. So 30 is great. 30, I think, is the winner chicken dinner so far in this loop of 17 to 54. So I liked 30. 30 is good. If I'm booking in this other loop, 17 to 54, 30 is my number one choice, followed probably by 28 and 23. Trying to keep a running tally in my noggin. And look, another leaning tower of ponderosa pine. Like I'm digging the trees here on point, gorgeous wonderland zone. Here's 31. It's not a roundabout. It's a long, flat parking. You got a picnic table, fire pit. I will say, as far as being on the inner loop, it's actually not bad because it doesn't have like, I mean, you got picnic tables over there, but at least it doesn't have one 8, 10, 15, 20 feet away. So this one's not bad. 31's not bad. As far as being on this inner loop, it is better than most of them. You got people over there, but that's a pretty far distance away. So there's no flags on the field for 31 as far as your privacy lot lines. It's got a good shade, good swath of forest, good canopy. 30's up there, but well obstructed. So 31's decent. I give 31 props. As far as where to put your tent, probably put it over here. You could either put it straight ahead there or straight ahead there. 2 flat spots. Choose your own adventure, both work. So 31's decent. I really like 30 up there. You can see picnic table kind of between those trees. That 30 is really good. 31's decent. I'd say it's top tier. Top third, we have our spigot, sink, waste disposal only. And now we're coming up to 32. Now again, talking about clusters, you'll see now we got 2 like right on top of each other. Like the difference in quality here is crazy. So now I just complimented 30, 31 spacing. You come up here, you got 1 right there, and you got 2 right here. So you got 3 like in a total cluster. So it's like, it's interesting. It's interesting how unevenly they're spaced. And it's not necessarily self-evident when you're at recreation.gov. That's why it's worth watching review and getting a sense of the weed from the chaff. So here's 32, picnic table, fire pit. There's your neighbor. That's a deal breaker for me. So I'm not gonna recommend these. I mean, yeah, you've got a straight shot to 31 right there, but at least it's a bit of a distance and you got your car parked in the way. You probably can make that work. So 31 and 30 up there are recommended. 32, which is right here, I'm sitting at my picnic table, fire pit. Look at that. That's a deal breaker right there. Like, persona non grata, I don't want that. Like, I don't want my neighbors. Basically, you're in a conversation with them whether you want to be or not. 32 is no good. You also have one up there as well. So walk over to our fire pit. So here's our fire pit for 31, our picnic table for 31. Again, you're right next to your neighbor there. As far as where to put your tent, I mean, straight ahead over here is probably the spot. Probably put my tent right here, but it's not really ideal because then I still got my neighbor right there. So yeah, not a fan of 32. It's a hard pass for me on 32, and whatever that one is, I'm going to be a hard pass on. See which one of these is 33, which one is 34. You can never tell. Guessing this one over here is 33. So, yep, 33. So kind of weird. The parking is a little bit more shoulder. You can see you got all these stubs. It's not really a full roundabout. It's just a little bit more of a shoulder. Got this little circle thing, kind of weird. You have the restroom right there. So that restroom services this cluster, 32, 33, 34, as well as maybe 30 and 31 back there. So here's 33. You park up against these stubs. I wish the picnic table and fire pit were more offset from the stubs or right up against the stubs, picnic table, fire pit. Good square footage, and you're up against the forest. So those are all, 33 is definitely better than 32 and 34 over there just suck. I'm not a fan, I'll be honest. But 33 is better because at least you're up against the forest here. So let me pan to the left here. You're up against the forest, which I like. You can shade up there and enjoy that. So here's again, picnic table, fire pit. Weird parking. It is technically a turnabout, but doesn't really feel like it. It's kind of a weird center little thing there. I would shade my tent as far up here as I could. I mean, you could put it straight ahead right there in front of the log, or you could put it up there against front of that log, and then you can kind of use that area as your play area. So 33 is definitely better than over there, 32, 34, but this isn't the best. Like I liked 30 and 31, 28, 23, 15, 16. I liked all 6 of those way better than this one. So I wouldn't say this is idyllic. It's mid-tier, I'd say, mid-tier. 33 is not great. I'd probably ultimately steer clear of 33 personally, but then again, I'm very picky. Again, we got our restroom and our dumpster on the right. Now we're coming up to 34. Remember, 32 and 34 are basically what I call wishbone campsites. They emanate from the same starting spot and then branch off. Wishbone sounds good, but it's actually a negative because typically they have very poor privacy lines between the two of them, which is the case. So right now I'm in my driveway. Got my fire pit here on the right, my picnic table on the left. Straight ahead, you put your tent probably dead ahead right there between these trees. It's a fire pit, and look at that. You got 32 right there. I already demonstrated how horrible it is from 32. I'll do it again from 34 because I am a sadist. Stand right here and yeah, look at that. I don't know what that is. 25, 30 feet away, you got 32, and then you got their fire pit. So that's a deal breaker. I wouldn't do 32 or 34. I'd steer clear from those. There's been a couple duo pairings like that around this campground that are just such poor privacy lot lines. I mean, I guess if you got both of them, if it's like there's the old group play situation, you grab 32 and 34, you got like a big group of friends or a family reunion or whatever, and you want a little swath, then that nullifies that, and then it's a nice area. So that's always something to consider. If you grab 32 and 34 together, then suddenly you don't worry about the privacy. You want a central location, central hub. So that's really the only way to ameliorate that concern. No parking anytime, 10 miles per hour. And we are on the back end loop coming up to 35. Remember, we're ultimately going to 54, so we got like 19, 20 left. So here's 35. So 35, inner loop, park here. Here's your picnic table. So you can see 32 and 34 up there. There's your fire pit on the left, picnic table on the right. See, that's a issue for me is you're again staring at your neighbor right here. So you're sitting here, you've got a little breakage as far as these logs, but it doesn't really do anything visually because you still have a direct line of sight. So it doesn't work for me. Let me come back and show you where the sun is for your orientation for sunscreen management. Always a component. So yeah, deal breaker for me because those people right there are way too close. And you also look over there, you got 32 and 34. 31's over there, but I can live with that. That's not too close. So I don't know, man. Not where dreams were made. Not digging 35. So here's our general campground road. Pan back for orientation. Here's 36. 37's over there. I will say you got your water spigot right there next to 37. 36 got a little bit of a quasi roundabout, more for an SUV than an RV. Check recreation.gov. So now this is interesting. I am digging this. 36. I wasn't expecting this. We're actually getting up to Cultus Lake Shoreline. Who knew, right? So very nice. Picnic table, fire pit. I like how far up against the shoreline this is in the middle of shade, which is really thoughtfully designed. So 36 is looking good. Picnic table, really high quality fire pit with a little barbecue grill that you can put on it, which is nice. And I will say, you know, the campground gods giveth, the campground gods taketh away. Straight ahead, you do have that picnic table right there. So you got, for some reason, you're right on top of your neighbor. That seems unnecessary to me. That seems like a miss. If this didn't have that picnic table right there, this would be pretty awesome. But that does ratchet it down a little bit. There's no reason why these two need to be so close to each other, like right on top of each other. That's a miss, in my humble opinion. So kind of interesting. You got that roundabout and then a big swath of forest where you carry all your gear. As far as your tent, I would definitely shade my tent back this way. It's very flat. You're right on the edge of the campground, and that's also getting you away from your neighbors. So I put my tent over here somewhere, and now where your neighbor picnic table isn't as impactful, at least where you're sleeping. So I would shade it as far this direction as you're comfortable. I really like the shade. I really like the national forest, the old growth canopy, the trees. Fire pit picnic table is very nice. Again, you park over there, kind of a weird situation. You carry all your gear, whatever that is, 80, 100 feet over this area, but well worth it to be up against Cultus Lake. So I'm digging all that. I don't like the picnic table over there, but you can't have everything in life. I guess life is trade-offs. Let's come down here and look at Shoreline for Cultus Lake. this might be the great clarifier that makes us not really care about the fact that our neighbor happens to be right there. And look at this, my friend. This is gorgeous. Look at this. This is magical. We are right on the shoreline of world-class alpine lake beauty, wonder of the world, known as Cultus Lake. Look at this. This is a beautiful shoreline. This is like an epic wonderland zone. Look at that. That is gorgeous. This is heaven. I'm digging this. So this is why you're at Cultus Lake. This is a dream boating lake, kayaking lake, swimming lake, rafting lake, canoeing lake, just a water sport play lake. And this is just a wonderland zone, an alpine forest lake confluence wonderland zone. I mean, look at this. And here's our access point from 36. So you could argue that, hey, guy making this review, why are you so worried about the fact that there's a picnic table over here? Look at this lake, like this wins. And you know what, you might be right. So this is pretty darn beautiful. I gotta say, I'm blown away. I'm sitting here on the shoreline of Cultus Lake near campsite number 36, Cultus Lake Campground. This, my friend, is an absolute alpine lake wonderland. Look at this. Today is October 21st, 2025. It is the end of the season. Middle of a campground review. Thought I'd come and stand shoreline this beautiful alpine lake forest wonderland. This, my friend, is absolutely beautiful. As we continue along our review, so that was site 36. And again, I will pan back around one more time, show you the majesty, the beauty that is this alpine lake wonderland, otherwise known as the beautiful Cultus Lake. So that was 36. I know I was griping about the proximity of the nearby picnic table right there, but that could certainly be viewed as foolhardy given the quality of your shoreline access and the great shade and large square footage and massive swath of forest you have here at beautiful site 36. So again, probably put my tent way back there, shade as far back as you can. It's your domain, you're part of the forest. And then you got your picnic table and fire pit right here. Probably the only negative, it even has its own turnabout. The only negative is just that you got your friend right there, but probably live with that for your premium lake shoreline access. Cultus Lake is a majestic gem. All right, moving along. So that was 36. 36 is definitely the best one so far. I think that goes almost without saying, but I will say it anyway. 36 was our first real shoreline play. Let's continue along. Sun is definitely getting higher. It's a little before noon. Here's 37. Looks like that's 39 on the other side. I don't know where 38 is. Maybe on the other side of 37. So this is an inner. You got a nice long driveway. Kind of spoiling after just walking on the shoreline of 36. These definitely feel lower quality in comparison. Maybe not fair, but it is what it is. So here's your picnic table. Here's your fire pit. Kind of a low square footage area. So remember, you got 35 right there, like right in your business. That's a deal breaker. Probably have to put your 10 right there. It's the only flat spot. And then here is 37. So this is right in the middle of that cluster in more ways than one, right in the center of Cultus Lake Campground and all the action. For me, this is a privacy line nightmare and a deal breaker. So between 35 right there, no line of sight breakage. And then you got a couple right over here. Very open, not a lot of usable square footage, just kind of in the heart of the action. We just looked at 36 over there, which was magic right up on the shoreline. I don't know why you wouldn't rather be at 36 than 37. So I'm not the biggest fan of 37. These inner landlocked fishbowl sites with poor privacy lines just aren't my cup of tea. Yes, they are a serviceable base camp if you want to be at the world-class base camp known as Cultus Lake. And this is a serviceable base camp campground, but that said, I probably wouldn't do 37. Okay, so here's 38, and here's the restroom. 38's on the same side as 37. You go past 39, so it's a little counterintuitive, but it is what it is. So 38's another inner landlubber site, just like 37 was. Again, the restroom, dumpster. We previewed this one earlier when we were looking on the other side. It's got a picnic table, fire pit. So you got your neighbor there. That's not too close. You got neighbors over there, neighbor there. None of those are too close. So as far as these inner landlubber sites, 38 is actually probably one of the better ones. Nobody's right in your business. You do have the restroom there. That could be good if you want to use it a lot. It's bad if you got to worry about people slamming the door in the middle of the night and you're in your tent. As far as where to put a tent, probably put it over here. These are the natural spots, flat area. Yeah, you get closer to your friend over there, but not too close. You could also put it over here. So yeah, I mean, this is serviceable. This is definitely a serviceable base camp. I wouldn't, make a point of booking 38 like as a dream destination site, but very serviceable, competent base camp utility play. So that's 38. I'd say 38's in the top half, but not one of the best. And then we got 40 across the way. We got to walk back over here a little bit. On the right here is 39. For some reason they put 37 and 38 on this side, and we walk back to 39. So 36 was the best here by far, right up against Shoreline. I think 39 is similar. That might be the one I was noticing from 36. I think it is, but we will find out. So walking over here to 39. Now this is a Shoreline play, my friend. A nice long turnabout. There's our campground road. 40's over there, but far away, so we don't have to worry about that one. I really like that you park and then you have to walk a long way, whatever this is, 80 feet to your picnic table. It's worth it to be on the shoreline. Here's your fire pit. So weirdly how they did this, because you got your picnic table and fire pit right here. That was 36. I do wish that they wouldn't have put the fire pit and picnic table 39 so close. Seems like a miss, unnecessarily close, because there's more space here than warrants the need to do this, but that's what they did. So if you're here at your fire pit, you are kind of staring at 36, a little suboptimal. Here's your picnic table, a little bit more offset. Now this isn't a deal breaker just because your lake proximity is so awesome that it's well worth it. Let me also say, before I walk over to the picnic table, this being 39, that being 36, if you can get 36 and 39 together, then that's a W, my friend. You're winning a life, because these are so far the two best campsites here, and they're right next to each other, kind of on top of each other. If you grabbed them both, then you've nullified the privacy play, and you just have taken over the whole swath of shoreline of Cultus Lake. You are now in heaven, my friend. So I highly recommend that. 36 plus 39 equals heaven. That's the equation that I am seeing and reading. Pan back over here just so you get an idea of what's this way. As far as my tents, if I'm staying at 39, 36, I said to go back the opposite direction. 39, I would shade this way. Bear in mind, there is a picnic table right there. That's probably 40. I do believe that's 40. There's another one over there. So coming over here, you see a picnic table there on the left, picnic table on the right. So those are our friends down this outer loop row. So coming down here, you don't want to come too far because now you're kind of in their domain. So as far as where to put your tent for this one, I might put it actually right here. Kind of feels like the spot to me, like right where I'm standing right now, between your tent, blocked by that tree to 36, next to your picnic table. I think right here is a good spot. It's got good spacing with your two friends over there. So where I'm standing, either right there or where I am, is probably where I'd put my tent for 39. Thinking out loud. So that's 36. Here's what we're doing right now, 39. Let's walk out and check the world-class shoreline access to Cultus Lake, beautiful alpine lake, wonder of the world. And come out here. Can you hear the angels singing, my friend? I can hear them. This is amazing. Like, look at this. This is world-class. This is why you're here, right? This is why, wherever you're coming from, you've driven hours with your family, you got your tent, all your gear, you've come to camp. It's all right here for this, my friend. So you can have this lake shoreline access, this premium world-class zone. And this area, this swath of the lake, the shoreline is your domain, your dominion. Here at 39, like, you just come out here, you plop down your chairs, enjoy the lake, maybe read your iPad or your Kindle, or just sit and reflect and contemplate the meaning of life, whatever it is you like to do while you camp. This right here is a spot you would like to be able to do that. So I'm digging it. I'm loving this shoreline. Cultus Lake is legend. Like, I really like this area. I mean, this is beautiful. This is a majestic wonderland. How crystal clear this water is. You can just walk right into it. Oh, this is beautiful. So that is the shoreline. view from 39. And this is our little Primrose Path access point back up to 39. 36 and 39 together, the more I think about it, are like a dream group play. If you can grab 36 and 39 together, that's my number one recommendation here. Then you've nullified the one privacy gripe I had as far as the proximity of the picnic tables to each other, and you have just taken over this entire shoreline. Now, basically, Cultus Lake is your domain. The world is your oyster, my friend. So 36, 39 as a group play, definitely the best here. Or just either one of them individually as a single family is going to be a win, because that is premium access to a world-class lake. So you could kayak or canoe directly from your site. So if you're staying here at 39 or 36, really the only two so far that if you brought kayaks, you could just literally like launch, enter and exit right from the shoreline there. No need to go to the boat ramp launch, which to me is a big plus. I've got pungos and orus. I'd probably bring pungos here. I'd also say Cultus Lake, I don't know if they've changed the rules, but it's a bit of a famous lake as far as boating because there's no speed limit. So there's a lot of kind of crazy wild boaters, keeping it real. So if you're gonna go kayaking or rafting or canoeing, exercise situational awareness, because probably a little bit more dangerous than any other lake in the area. So be aware of that. Kind of the wild boaters lake, no speed limit. So if you're just looking for a paddler's delight area, you're maybe better off at like Elk Lake or Hosmer Lake or Lava or Little Lava. If you're looking for more like a boater's dream, like speedboat, get my racing on, I think you want to come more to Cultus. So factor that in, different lakes for different type of boating scenarios. Here's 40. Park here, again, a roundabout. Kind of weird roundabouts because they're so sharp. They're like a sharp U. Doesn't really feel like it's for an RV. It feels like it's for a couple vehicles or something. So now there's a picnic table. I think that's for that one, which is probably 41 or 42. I think this is 40 down here. We saw this picnic table from 39. Sometimes it's helpful when you're at the previous one, kind of spying ahead, you get a sense of the next one. So this is picnic table for 40. Here's our fire pit. Unusually high sun exposure. Let me pin back. See, there's a breakage in the tree. So this is definitely an SPF sunscreen required site. Probably get a lot of sun from 40. This is on that premium row right up against the shoreline of Cultus Lake. Come here. You got 39 and 36 over there. So this is another one where you reasonably expect to have your own shoreline access. We are facsimiling that experience coming down this way. So you come over here and yeah, you have direct access down to Cultus Lake. It's a little bit farther. It's a little less premium than we'll say 39 and 36 over there. 39 and 36 I'd say are better, but this is serviceable. That's 40. I will also say you see 40 and 40's fire pit. Over there's 39, a decent distance, but your neighbor right here is a little close. So this is actually even worse than 36, 39. 36, 39 was better than this and closer to the lake. So 36, 39 are definitely the best two on the shoreline, at least so far. 40 is decent because it's shoreline, but not as good. And you see your fire pit is shading more towards your neighbor over there. So that's not good. Like, come over here. You know, time to roast some marshmallows, right? Come over here, pop your family down right here, and look at this. I mean, awkwardly close to your neighbors here, no line of sight breakage. They're hanging out, and you're kind of forced to cohabitate with some strangers. I don't really like that. So it's a trade-off because, yeah, this is the shoreline premium zone, so you want to be in the shoreline premium zone, that's for sure, but not the best privacy lines. So that was 40. We are ripping and tearing all the way to 54, so we're making good progress. Here's 41. I'm going to stop, look back at this tree, and as well as the sun. So again, it's a roundabout around a tree, creatively designed. This one is a little bit more RV friendly. It's not that sharp U that 40 was. This is exactly the same commentary. First of all, let me say, look at that tree right there. Flat top, you could use that to like put something down on. That's nice. It's basically a table tree, I call those. This is exact same situation as 40, so I won't repeat all the exact same talking points. It's the exact same analysis. See, stopping right here, you can see 40 next to you, their fire pit, their picnic table. Here's our fire pit, our picnic table for 41. So it's the exact same thing, not the best privacy line as 4041, but probably worth it for the trade-off to be on the shoreline. It's premium zone of Cultus Lake. So sitting here, like, look, see, hello there, 40. I've been watching you. Come over here and you've got your own primrose path to Cultus Lake, the beautiful shoreline of our alpine gem, brilliant blue, sparkling sapphire Cultus Lake. So yeah, this is nice. I'm digging this. We'll come down just because I want you to get the full 41 experience. Want to stop short. And yeah, I mean, this is epic. You come down here, a little bit farther than 36 and 39. It doesn't feel like it's right in your backyard, but it's still kind of your domain. So I don't think it's unreasonable to come down here and think this is your domain, being here at Site 41. So 40 and 41 kind of share this area, obviously, because it's a little bit of a walk and extended area. Beautiful lake, beautiful shoreline. As far as the shoreline zone goes, not to be a broken record, I like 36 and 39 better than 40 and 41, but all four of them are good. I really like 36, 39 together as a group play, or really high quality two single family plays. I think 40 and 41 are a little close together for my taste, but still worth it relative to Cultus Lake. Beautiful zone. Kind of weird how this is eclectically designed. I will also say you got a neighbor over there. Pretty good spacing though, not like right in your business, but you'll be able to hear them and sense them. So, but it could be worse, right? Some of these, they were like 10 or 15 or 20 feet away. So now when they're that far away, they don't seem as bad in comparison, but still not idyllic. So that was 41. So 36, 39, 40, 41 are your premium shoreline zone. So hard not to recommend all of those just for that reason. Let's continue along. Here is 42. 43 is over there, but we'll do 42 first. Got a turnabout, kind of a sharp U. Again, kind of difficult for an RV, that angle. Come down here, great shade. Loving the feng shui. Hearing kind of angels singing just from the layout. It feels good. Fire pit, good central location. Good shade around the picnic table. All that's winds. Probably put my tent straight ahead in front of these tree logs. But look at there. Wah, wah, wah. You got your neighbor there and another neighbor there. So just when I'm getting excited about this one, I see a flag on the field and I'm like, oh, not as good as I was starting to build up my mind. That is a little close right there, both of those people, unfortunately. So this is one of these cluster row bays. Not my favorite design that a lot of campgrounds do for some reason. So you come here, I'm sitting here. You got 41 over there, I'm in 42. Pretty good breakage, that's not too crazy close, I can live with that. But these two over here are you're start to be in a bay of 4 or 5 in a row. It gets to be a little bit much, in my humble opinion. You also have people back there and people over there. So yeah, definitely not a privacy play. You are sacrificing privacy for proximity. It is right up against the lake, so being positive. I'd probably put my tent actually over here. I was starting to say in front of those trees, but that's too close to your neighbor over there. So I will amend that and say put your tent right here. This is pretty good. Like that's not too close to 41 over there. So, and you got your primrose path over to Cultus Lake, exactly the same as 41, kind of a shared access point. So interesting, that's 42. Good shade, like great old growth forest shade. You gotta remember, you got your friend over there, you got a fire pit there. Probably the biggest miss is I come over to my fire pit here and now all of a sudden I'm staring at these people and people beyond. So bit of a row. I mean, they've got this dividing line of a bunch of logs, which is helpful. Break up the line of sight and give like a sense of boundary, which I appreciate. But I mean, 42 is the same as 41, it's the same as 40, the same as 39 and 36. So far we have 5 in the premium zone, the shoreline, and we will cross over to 43, back over to an inner loop landlubber site. Now, I remember this one in a negative way, notoriously, because we did the other side of this earlier, and this was one of those that was hard no, just because of the privacy lines. So come over here, you've got your fire pit, your picnic table, but look, I remember doing it on the other side of this one, like way too close for my comfort. If you don't care about privacy, or if you can get both these together, you've solved the problem. But if you're two single families, I mean, look at this. This is way too close. and you're not even getting the shoreline access. Like at least back over there, when you're at 42, 41, 39, all those over there, at least you get the trade-off of the shoreline. Here you get no trade-off and even worse privacy lines. So this is inner landlubbers. I would put my tent straight ahead over here. So put your tent right here, but now if your tent's over here, because it's the obvious spot to put it based on the layout, you've gone even closer to your friend across the way. If you didn't know them before you got here, you'll definitely know them by the time you leave. So yeah, I wouldn't do this one. That's a hard pass for me. Again, my main bias, everybody's got them, is I like privacy lot lines with my family. If I'm bringing my family camping, I would like to have as private and secluded experience. And I also like feeling like I'm in the middle of the forest, out in the middle of nowhere. I'd like if pin drop quiet if possible, or at least the illusion that I'm really in the middle of a forest. I don't like it being too logisticy and paved and parking lotty. Those are all adjectives. So here's 44. You got turnabout. Here's our main campground road. Here's 45. 45 is an inner. I'm probably not gonna like it, but we'll do these numerically in order. So here's 44. This is Shoreline, so that's good. This is going to be, I think, exactly the same. This whole bay is basically the same story. You can see you got a neighbor over there, not the best line of sight breakage. Picnic table, fire pit. Picnic table, fire pit particularly is in a good spot. But remember, this is the one we were just looking at when we were doing 42. So you got 42's fire pit and picnic table right over there. Here's our fire pit, here's our picnic table. Good shade. I like all these logs, like it's interesting. Gives you places to sit, place you can strew your gear. So that's all W's. Good shade for this old growth forest. So I'm sitting here, I got my neighbor right there. It's just a little suboptimal. See a restroom over there. You do have premium shoreline access to Cultus Lake, so we don't want to bury the lead. That's the most important thing. Coming over here, remember you got your neighbor right over there. So you got a neighbor right there. You got a neighbor right there. I do absolutely feel like part of a 3-pack in the middle was the worst of the 3 triangulated. So I'm not loving it, to be honest. This is 44. Now to talk about the good stuff. Come down here and you are in that section where you have like generalized shoreline access. It's not like there's an obvious section of shoreline that belongs to each campsite. It's more of a general shoreline, general campsite situation. So these are all kind of like community access from the whole outer loop. Some campgrounds, it'll feel like each one's got a private beach, and I do prefer that, but you can't have everything. This is still quite beautiful. So look at this lake. I mean, this is legend. So definitely got that community shoreline, community campground feel. So that's our Cultus Lake access. Another friend, here's the site we're at right now, 44. I will say some campgrounds I've been to, each site has its own like primrose path to its own like what feels like private beach. When you're at the beach, it feels like your campsite specific beach. I definitely prefer that. This is more of communal outer loop, communal shoreline. I get it. It's not the type of topographical layout. Like look at that shoreline. Obviously they can't carve that into individual campsites. So there's a limitation there just based on the way the lake is. But I will say the campgrounds that happen to be lucky enough to have little coves and little sections of trees and it kind of ends up being its own little private beaches, those are a little bit more special. But Cultus Lake, luck of the draw, not the designer's fault. It's just the nature of the shoreline of the lake. Just wasn't in the cards for this particular campground. But that said, it's still nice to be able to go to the shoreline. But realistically, I will say this, realistically, if you're hanging out at the shoreline, you'll probably look down the shoreline and see 4 or 5 or 6 other parties and chairs. So gives that beach feel, like an Oregon beach feel, not necessarily like a private secluded experience, but it is what it is. Okay, here is 45. Picnic table fire pit. It's an inner, got a water spigot right in front of 45. This is another one of those that I really was negative about on the other side. So you got your fire pit, you got your picnic table, and lo and behold, my friend, lo and behold, look at that. Well, hello there, my new best friend. Again, this is the same one I was talking about, the forced social experiment. If you're on that side or this side, you're forced to cohabitate with strangers for however long you're camping, 2, 3, 4 nights. Suboptimal. Yeah, you got this little log here, but that's not really doing much for me. It might be a physical barrier, but it's not like a mental, emotional barrier. Like you got a direct line of sight. Every word they say, you hear. Every word you say, they hear. Unless you grab both these together, that's a hard no. Not a fan of 45. So here is 46. Here's the main campground road. Looking back, that was 45 with your own private water spigot. Another one of these creative roundabouts around a tree. Creatively designed, but it's such a sharp turn that I don't think it's really for an RV. Check recreation.gov. If this is an RV site, I probably wouldn't even try to go around that. I'd probably reverse, because you see I also got a flat bump there on the other side. So that seems like an accident waiting to happen. A hard bump for your RV. Come down here. We got our neighbor over there. Remember, that was, I think, 44. And then here is 46, picnic table, fire pit. Again, they just love putting these rows. Like, look at this. You got bang, bang, bang. You got a 3-pack. You go back here and it just, the road just keeps going. The hits keep coming. So I don't know. That's not my favorite. I feel like it's such a premium zone, this old growth forest up against the shoreline. Maybe I just sound ultra picky, but it's just, there's no reason why they couldn't have better privacy screens, a little bit more private. It's probably my main gripe. But beyond that, look at the sun. So you know the orientation. So here's our fire pit. I like that it's down here closer to the lake. In fact, this is one of the better fire pits. You can situate it so you're sitting at the fire pit roasting your marshmallows and just staring at beautiful Cultus Lake. So I dig that. You could go down to the lake that way, although you're going more towards your buddies over there, or you can come back this way. Now this access point straight ahead over a couple logs is kind of shared with 44 over there. So you kind of, again, it's all communal access to the lake. I mean, it's cool to be able to come up to the lake. So that's the big W. I don't want to bury the lead, but it's also of the nature that if you're, let's say you're staying at 46 with your family and you grab your chairs, your Cabela's chairs, whatever you got, you come down here and you're going to come sit on the shoreline. It's very similar to the Oregon beach. Like you're going to come and plop down and you'll look down, you're going to see 8 or 10 other people down the shoreline, all from their sites. So, you know, it just ends up being a big community beach, just no different than like being at the Oregon beach. You just happen to be in an alpine lake. It's not really my favorite. I want my own little private beach if possible. There are some campsites that I've identified that you get that, so it's not a crazy ask. This is definitely a beautiful zone. I love this lake. Like I'm a fan, super fan, in fact, of Cultus Lake. Like I love this. But just bear in mind, this is definitely a community beach. Very much an Oregon beach vibe, but you just happen to be at an alpine lake, so a smaller scale. I would argue more beautiful. I'm more of a fan of an alpine lake than a coastal beach. My own bias. So that is the shoreline here from 46. I will point this out. I just saw this. Like, I love these little things. This is really more for the kiddos, I'd say. If you've got a kid who's like the right age and they see this, like this will be the best thing they've ever seen in their life. This is that capture the wonder and imagination of a kid. Little fort to play in. You know, this is the type of thing that they'll remember the rest of their lives. When they're an adult, they'll remember the fort at the lake that they'd always go camping at. So it's that kind of a special thing. So sounds small, but those kind of things matter. So that's pretty epic. That's right next to 46. I mean, I think realistically, any of the sites can access that. I'm not saying that's part of 46, but just happens to be for proximity next to 46. So that was site 46. Kind of an interesting campground to review. I do a lot of campground reviews, a wilderness trail perspective, and I kind of have mixed feelings about the shoreline zone because I love me a good lake shoreline. So I am digging it on one level, but I'm also a little bummed by just the way they carved it, just because I've been to so many other campgrounds where they've carved it better. I feel like they could leverage this shoreline zone better than they have. So they just settled on a line of picnic tables and a community campground shoreline access area. So this is what it is. That's site 46. So move along, my friend. So here is our campground road. Here is site 47 on the right. Good turnabout. This one actually looks RV worthy. For some reason, a lot of these quasi turnabouts are too sharp of an angle for an RV to realistically take. Check recreation.gov to see if they're actually even RV rated, but this one looks like it's actually RV appropriate. And again, cool, you park, you come down to this little shoreline zone, picnic table, fire pit, good shade, great old growth forest, so I'm digging that. This is part of a 3-pack, so you got, or really a 4-pack, a 6-pack really. You got one straight ahead, and then one beyond that. You look over there, you got another one, another one, another one. So it's just a big row of picnic tables. Come over here, you got your fire pit. I like where your fire pit is. Where I'm standing, you can just kind of enjoy Cultus Lake, so I like that. Good shade, as I said. I'll pan over so you can see the orientation of the sun for your sunscreen SPF management. Pretty good shade in this old growth section. So here's our picnic table. I don't love this row of campsites, but I think I've said that enough. Staying on the positive, sit here, you're definitely getting the full silhouette and really straight money shot views of Cultus Lake, so I'm digging that. This, I would say, has the exact same really access as the last one. I'll walk it out just to be thorough, but coming down here, and remember the last one, 46, had the little play fort, wooden fort next to it, and we come down here and it's beautiful. If you really want shade, you could actually sit up here, although you probably want to get a little closer to the lake. Come over here, and look at this. We are at the lake, beautiful Cultus Lake. Pretty legit. So a lot of these are pretty much the exact same thing. I mean, I'm showing you each one, but this entire bay up against the shoreline is pretty much rinse and repeat. I mean, there's differences in quality, but it's nuanced. I still liked 36 and 39 at the far end over there the best. All these middle ones are pretty much the exact same situation. Minor differences in quality based on your layout and your proximity to other sites, but it's splitting hairs. So that was 47, again, up against beautiful Cultus Lake. Let's continue along, my friend. Okay, got a spigot over there. I think 48, yeah, it's right here. This is our next inner loop landlubber site. I'd much rather be up against the shoreline behind me, so that's already a strike against it. We'll go to fair shake. Park here. Got your fire pit, your picnic table. Not a huge square footage footprint. You could put your tent over there in that corner or your tent over here. Remember, this is that issue where you've got your neighbors on the other side. So we come over here. If I'm sitting here at my picnic table, I got a picnic table and fire pit right there. So, and you do have a sink, only waste disposal over there. So you got a dumpster over there. You got a restroom over there. So I don't know, man. 48's not what I'm looking for. You got the spigot right there. I'd much rather be on the shoreline. As much as I was being negative about the endless row of picnic tables, I'd still rather be over there versus 48. So here is 49. Here's our nice long driveway. Another roundabout. This roundabout looks RV worthy. It's weird because I've never seen so many roundabouts at a place that aren't really designed for an RV. So each one I have to look at and think, could an RV make that? And an RV definitely could make this one. So that's good. Here's picnic table, fire pit. Again, this is part of that bank of outers, kind of a eclectic shoreline zone, old growth forest shoreline zone. You got a friend over there, so that's just beware of that for your privacy law lines. Turn around, you got a friend right there and another friend right there. So this is a Banco campsites, not my favorite. Fire pit down here. I do like that it's oriented towards the lake, so you sit here, put your chairs here, roasted marshmallows. It's not like a money shot of the lake, but it's beautiful and you get the full silhouette. You get a sense of the lake, which is nice. So I'd take it. That's nice. Again, we'll walk down. I think you get this at this point. Again, I'll look back. I mean, look how close your friend is over there. So I don't know. You really have just one step. You got to step over this log. I guess you could put your tent down here in theory. I don't know if that's appropriate or if that's encroaching on the shoreline, but something to consider. And come down here. Lo and behold, my friend, you are back at your close trusty friend. Beautiful Cultus Lake. Look at this. Pretty epic, my friend. Cultus Lake. So that was 49. It's kind of funny. This whole shoreline zone is kind of perplexing me because it's, in some ways it's awesome. In other ways, I really don't like it. So it's like I'm almost confused, like I'm short-circuiting how to analyze it. because it's like, it's awesome that you're up against the lake. Like, I love it, but there's something missing about the way they carved it. And each site is like in an endless row. So poor privacy lines, great proximity to the lake. I've been to many other lakes that have better design as far as each site feels privately carved with tree privacy screens and private beaches. I'd much rather be one of those than this, but I don't hate it. So I will say you've got a restroom right there. There's our neighbor over there. Let's continue along. Here's our campground road. Here is site 50. And we've got a really high quality turnabout. I'd say this is RV quality turnabout. Really good shade on this one. Like, if you value shade, canopy cover, 50 is a winner chicken dinner. I really like this. This is nice. So picnic table, fire pit. This actually might be one of my favorite ones because you don't have a picnic table over there. And yeah, you've got the row of picnic tables, but you only have the edge here. 50 might be one of my favorites. I really like 50. In fact, I'd say 36 and 39 on one side and 50 on this side are my three favorite in this row. That makes sense, the ones on the end. So standing here, you've got this row, but you're on the edge of glory. You got your restroom there. That's good for you, bad for the noise in the middle of the night. People slamming the door in your tent, but you can live with that. Look at this primrose path down to the shoreline of Cultus Lake. That's nice. Pin around here. This is the campground road. Dumpsters right there. So I gotta say, 50's got outstanding shade. One of the best shaded ones. You're right on the edge of the shoreline zone. So I really like 50. I think 36 and 39, particularly as a group play or individually, and then 50 are the three best in this shoreline zone, although they're all decent quality. And look at this, my friend. The beautiful Cultus Lake. Oh, this is gorgeous. Never get tired of seeing that sparkling sapphire glisten on Cultus Lake, the shoreline. And head back over here. Cultus Lake is a looker. This is a really beautiful alpine lake. Like, I am digging this. This is a beautiful zone, alpine lake, forest, wonderland, majestic zone. I will also again add, you can kayak or canoe or raft or swim directly from your sites. You don't have to do the boat ramp launch. You got a couple kayaks. Like, I got pungos and orus. Just bring my pungos and just kayak from my site. That's a dream. So that's really nice when you can kayak directly from your site, like lake shoreline access, without having to go over to the boat ramp launch and move your car a couple times. That's a winner chicken dinner. It really makes a more fun, seamless experience. So I really like 50. I think 50 might be one of my very favorite. Say 50, 36, and 39 are the three best here. This whole campground. That's where I'm at right now. And we are getting to the end of the line. I think that was the end of this section. We got 51 through 54, and then we have walked all of Cultus Lake, my friend. So remember I was talking about that boat-in campground concept where you kayak or canoe in and backpack essentially on 3 campgrounds on the edge of the lake? Well, here is your parking for that. It says no day use. This is not for day users. This is your boat-in campground parking area. There's 3 campgrounds on the other side of the lake that are only accessible by boat in. Essentially, you take a canoe or a kayak, backpacks, put your tent and all that stuff in your backpack, and you kayak in. I really enjoy that model. So this is the parking for that, and it does even have a little launch area, which is straight over here. I will say there's a trail system. You can get to it as well, but that's not really how you're supposed to get to it, and you don't want to have to carry other stuff that way. So I really think it's boat in is the design. So this is your access point. I think they've kind of made this as a quasi boat launch, not like a, jet boat, but more like if you got canoes and you're backing up and unloading your kayaks or canoes right here on the water shoreline, and then you move your car park and then you launch from here. So this is the edge of that. We just saw 36 to 50 to the right. Here's like your boat ramp launch zone, specifically just for boat in, kayak, and canoers. That's how I would frame this, and as a continuation of your shoreline. So that's what this area is, a special area for boat in, campground, parking, and boat launching. Very cool concept. I really recommend doing that. If you've never done that before, it's well worth it. It's like a quasi form of backpacking, but I'd say it's backpacking light. because you just put your tent and all your gear like in your backpack, and you essentially, a lot of times you have like ropes and ways you can stow your gear on your boat. You hop on your kayak, your canoe, or whatever your boat is. I guess it could be a jet boat, and you boat over there, and then you just hop off your boat and dock your boat. If you got a kayak, you beach your boat, and then you're camping over there. And it's a good way to kind of get off the beaten path, get away from the cars and the logistics and the noise and all that, and you kind of feel like it's like its own little private oasis. So really my kind of personality, where I value the privacy, that's a really strong play, because you kind of get the best of both worlds, and it's pretty low barrier to access. It's a little bit more work, but I think it's frankly a fun adventure. So it's not like you're exhausted by the end of it. You shouldn't be. It's pretty easy, kind of makes it more fun. A lot of times in life, the stuff that is more difficult, you create a little barrier to entry on the front end, it makes it more valuable on the back end. I think that's just human nature. So here is our spigot here on the left. On our last bay of 51 through 54, you got the restroom straight ahead. Here's 51, it's an inner, flat parking, picnic table, fire pit, good shade. Probably put my tent straight ahead and right in front of that big tree straight ahead. Not a huge square footage footprint, but kind of an interesting one. As I said, put tent over there, or put your tent actually even better over here. I will say you've got one down there. I want to say that was 19, but I could be wrong. Not the best line of sight with 19, but it's in right here. Kind of a low square footage, as I said. A couple places you could put your tent where I'm standing or over there. Not really my favorite. You've got logistical roads between the lake, and we were just at ones where we're right on the lake. So I'd rather be right on the lake than on the other side of a road of a lake. So not really a super fan of 51. Serviceable base camp, but not where dreams are made necessarily. Stop and look back. Like, it's okay. It's good shade. Shade's probably the strongest there. That's probably the strongest feature, but and you're relatively close to the lake, but I wouldn't say idyllic by any stretch, my friend, by any stretch. And here's our restroom. We're kind of in the final mop up because this loop goes to 54. So here's 52. You park here, nice long flat driveway, good square footage, fire pit in the center, picnic table, centrally located. I will say you had, I think that was 17 right there. That's a problem as far as your lot lines. So it's kind of a cluster, mosh pit style, communal camping. Good central fire pit, picnic table. You also have your friend straight over there. We're just looking at 51. This is 52. You got one over there, and you got your friend right there. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not what I'm looking for personally. Probably put my tent right here. This is the natural spot. So here's where my tent is. It is in shade, but it even makes you more exposed. So I don't know, man. 52 is not great. I'm being completely honest. After we just did the Shoreline loop, it's kind of hard to get too excited about this last cluster. Like, we're finishing it off, trying to be fair, but I don't know if any of these are where dreams are made. But serviceable base camps, and this Cultus Lake area is gorgeous. Now, after I just said that, 53, it looks like it might be really good, actually. There's 54, I think, over there. This might be our last candidate for awesomeness. 53, and then there's 54. That's the end of the loop, and that's back to the main campground zone and the boat ramp launch. So 53, nice flat parking, turnabout style, perfect for an RV. I would be surprised if it wasn't an RV. So 53 is awesome. Here we've got our fire pit. We've got 2 picnic tables. From my research, I think every campsite here at Cultus is a single site, so I don't think there's any multi-double. So I think that's just a free extra picnic table. As far as our privacy outlines, we do have 54 right there. Pretty far away, not nearly as bad as some of the other ones. Really high quality, large fire pit. You can sit here and really get a beautiful money shot of the lake. Look at that, digging that. So I love the 2 picnic tables. Again, I think that's a free extra bonus picnic table. And look at this, my friend. You got a premium Primrose Path private access point to beautiful shoreline of Cultus Lake. So I am digging this big time, dude. This is crazy. So maybe saving the best for last. 53 might be the best one, or one of the best ones here. Coming over here, loving this. So right up against the shoreline of Cultus Lake. Nice long beach shoreline. If you're ever curious why there's that little rock circle there, that's for fishing. People go out there like fly fishing, that kind of a thing, and they stand right on the edge of that, and it kind of gives them an extra 10 or 15 feet into the lake, which gives them better access to grab the fish. So it's typically what those are for, but that's interesting that's there. But I gotta say, I mean, look at this. This is gorgeous. This is a really beautiful section of Cultus Lake. Look at that color. Get different earth tone, gemstone colors, some greens, some blues right in the middle there. That is beautiful. Love me the earth mineral spectrum. And coming back up here, our little rocked, gated primrose path coming this way. This is a really high quality one because you're right on the end of the campground, 53, right at the edge of the loop. So you got 2 picnic tables. Again, I don't think it's a multi-double. I think it's a single. I think it's just a bonus free picnic table. Really high quality fire pit. Yeah, you do have 54 over there, but we can live with that because that's pretty far away. You got a really high quality roundabout, good for an RV, very flat. 53 might be one of the very best sites here. I was not expecting that. I am digging 53. That is jumped to the very top of my list. I think 53 is legend, my friend, legend. So here's the last but not least, number 54, last one in this loop. We got a very flat turnabout. Not the worst lot lines with 53, right up against the end of the campground road. You're not on the lake. Serviceable, but 53 is obviously way better than 54. So 54 is a mid-tier. So that is the last of our 54 sites in the main 2 loops. There's one more 55, which is the camp host, which is kind of by itself right when you get here. We'll go look at that one. Last but not least, here's 55. This is the camp host. Generally, camp hosts are not bookable. In fact, I looked at recreation.gov and this was not bookable, but I'll show it to you anyway. This is right on the edge. It's not even in one of the 2 main loops. It's right next to the boat ramp launch parking. You got a nice long driveway. Clearly, it's a little bit more built out, which I dig. Very high quality fire pit, picnic table. I don't want to go too far in. You got a spigot right here. Very beautiful just to be aware that this is here. This is, again, 55, camp host, not bookable, recreation.gov. Kind of separate. There's 2 loops. One's 1 through 16, the other is 17 through 54. This is kind of its own island oasis by itself, not one of the loops, kind of at the very beginning, right when you get to the campground, which makes sense for a campground host. So that is 55, last but not least. Okay, so I just looked at all 55 sites here at Cultus Lake Campground, Deschutes National Forest, Central Oregon. Kind of an eclectic campground, kind of a mixed bag. Some of the things I really like is I love all the trees. They've got like a lot of interesting mangled Dr. Seuss, Tim Burton type trees, kind of one of a kind. I appreciate that, the eclecticness of it. Also a really good old growth forest, really good shade, this particularly shaded campground. Some of the other campgrounds, Cascade Lake Scenic Byway, are kind of more those narrow lodgepole pines, and this is not that. This is like thick old growth forest, well shaded trees, so be aware of that. So that's in the plus column. I will say one of the incumbent risks of a campground with 55 sites is a lot of times they end up cramming a lot of them in, and it kind of ends up becoming a mosh pit, a cluster of logistics. You know, all these different campground roads and loops and water spigots and waste disposals and dumpsters and bathrooms, and it's just, by the time you get all the logistics required for 55 sites, then you just end up sometimes unintentionally feeling like you're camping in the middle of a parking lot because there's just so much paving and so much logistics. A lot of the sites you feel triangulated, direct line of sight with 3, 4, or 5 other sites, which is not what I'm looking for. I really like it when they have a layout where each site feels, you know, privately, meticulously crafted for a private, secluded experience. So that's probably my main gripe against the campground, is you can tell they know they have a valuable feature here of Cultus Lake being a destination. So I feel like they just kind of crammed in as many as they could. So more of a serviceable base camp to kind of use, you know, the 3 squares in the cop mentality to come boating or hiking, go explore Three Sisters Wilderness, go canoeing or whatever it is. I will also add, be aware, Cultus Lake doesn't have a speed limit last time I checked, so it's kind of known as the party jet, jet boat party lake. People are a little bit more likely to go crazy on Cultus Lake. So if you're like a canoeer or a kayaker like I am, I got Orus and Pungos, you don't really necessarily want to focus on Cultus. You're better off going to what's called a paddler's delight lake, like an elk lake, a Hosmer lake, a lava lake, a little lava lake. Those have a speed limit, more of a calm, relaxing vibe. This is a little bit more of a fly by the seat of your pants vibe. So there's one lake that I probably wouldn't kayak out to the middle of, close my eyes and lay back and, you know, just forget the world, it would be Cultus Lake, because that could actually be dangerous. You don't know what's going on around you, and you got to practice situational awareness. So be aware of that. That could be a deal breaker if you're just a kayaker. You're probably better off, frankly, at staying at, you know, South or Mallard Marsh at Hosmer and kayaking there if you just want to kayak. Cultus is kind of the jet boat domain. That's kind of how I've always framed it in my mind, at least, given the speed limit aspect and just kind of the party nature of it. So as far as the actual campsites, I think 53 and 50 were epic. 36, 39 were epic, particularly as a group play, but even solo. Those are the 4 best Shoreline, the 5 best like inner forest plays, 15, 16 in the first loop, 23, 28, 30 in the second loop. So I say those 5 plus those 4, those 9, particularly the 4 Shoreline, are the best 9 out of the 54, 55 here. It's actually a pretty high ratio of decent quality, so I can't bash it too much. But I'm a super fan of the area. I live in Central Oregon. Deschutes National Forest is my favorite forest. Research Wilderness is my favorite wilderness. So I'm a super fan of the area, and I fell even more in love with the area coming to do this. So I'm not like leaving, you know, disgruntled or negative, but it's kind of one of these difficult ones to analyze because I find myself short-circuiting. Half of me is loving it, and half of me is not loving it, mainly because of the privacy law line. So kind of a mixed bag, difficult to analyze. Short-circuited my analysis a few times because I didn't know if I loved it or hated it or was halfway in the middle. But beautiful area. I think if you come here, you'd be happy. I don't think you can be missing coming to a place like this. Like, I mean, this is a gorgeous Wonderland zone. So overall, I got to say I do recommend Cultus Lake, particularly 53, 50, 36, 39. And that concludes my review of Cultus Lake Campground. With the ethereal mist coming off Cultus Lake. We're here at Cultus Lake Campground, Deschutes National Forest, Central Oregon. And look at this, my friend. This is our boat ramp launch here at Cultus Lake Campground. Oh, this is beautiful. See some ethereal mist coming off the lake. Today is October 21st, 2025. It's about 31 degrees. So this is the left side of the boat ramp launch. I'm down here, what I like to call a corrugated boat ramp launch. Very smart for the water runoff so it doesn't pool. You can see it's very smooth right into the water. This is frankly about as good as it gets as far as boat ramp launches go. And here is the right side of the boat ramp launch. Again, that corrugated boat ramp launch. Good for water runoff, and it goes right into the water. Look at that. Man, that is high quality. I gotta say, the infrastructure of the boat ramp launch here at Cultus Lake is top-notch, world-class. This is about as good as it gets. So we got some ethereal mist coming off the lake. That's an effect that happens particularly when it's below freezing like it is right now. It's 31 degrees. And the gate will close for Cascade Lake Scenic Byway. This beautiful Wonderland zone will be inaccessible for the lion's share of the year. The next 2/3 to 3/4 of the year, you will not be able to come here and enjoy this beautiful alpine lake wonderland. So I thought I'd get one more trip in before the close of the season. Have you ever seen such a crystal clear lake? I'm here at Cultus Lake Campground, boat ramp launch on the dock, and I'm walking out to the edge of glory here, the very edge of the dock, and I'm really enjoying this majestic beauty, the wonder known as Cultus Lake, world famous boating destination. And particularly this water, it's like crystal clear. It's like mountain glacial runoff water. You can see the bottom. You can see every nook, cranny, and crevice, the bottom of the lake. I mean, look at that. Like, you can see everything. This is as clear and mountain fresh and pure as it gets, my friend. I stop here, show you the greenness of this water. It's crystal clear. You can see at the bottom every nook, cranny, and crevice. You can see the entire lake's floor. It's pretty darn amazing. Here we're getting the sparkle of Cultus Lake. Sun hitting it just so. It's about 1:30 p.m. and it's perfect time to really just stop and come enjoy this lake. This campground closed 3 days ago, October 18th. Again, this is October 21st, 2025. It was 31 degrees when I got here, so very cold, but nevertheless quite worth it to come and see this world-class boating destination one last time before the close of the season. Oh, look at that, my friend. Absolutely beautiful. Here's our day use area adjacent to Cultus Lake Campground. Is just before you get to Cultus Lake Campground on your left, on the shoreline of beautiful Cultus Lake. they're very clear they don't want you to try to backcountry camp in this zone. You can see why it'd be tempting, but that is a big no-no, so don't do that. You do have what looks like a picnic site right here, day use picnic site with a money shot, a beautiful Cultus Lake. Look at this. This is a premium picnic day use area, my friend. Look at this. This is gorgeous. Even a little fire pit there for day use. Oh man, I can see why somebody would want to camp here. That's why I have signs everywhere that says, do not camp. I'll also point out there's another day use picnic site right over there. So you got one there and one here. These look to be the two that comprise this day use picnic area. Oh, look at those views. Can I interest you in an alpine lake forest wonderland, my friend? This is epic. Imagine coming with your party, with your family, with your friends, whoever it is, and sitting right here, enjoying some lunch, picnic, cold refreshment, and just staring at the beauty that is Cultus Lake. This is a wonderland zone, my friend, a genuine destination. This is beautiful. I gotta say, this is one of the best lake shorelines in the entire Cascade Lake Scenic Byway area. We are here on the shoreline of Cultus Lake, near Cultus Resort on the road to Cultus Lake Campground. And you pull over on the shoulder and you come out to this little day use picnic site. Clearly you've got some restrooms, some picnic tables, really have a world-class swimming area. You come around here and show you this lake. Oh my gosh, look at how awesome this is. This is absolutely beautiful. Look at this, my friends. The beautiful Cultus Lake. Oh, this is awesome. See how they've left like some mangled trees right there to give you perspective. You can see a picnic table over there. This area has picnic table day use sites strewn all about this gorgeous beach shoreline. Let me pan around here and show you. You've got a couple picnic tables there. Oh man, this is gorgeous. Let me peek back and show you the sun trying to peek through these gray, ominous, dark clouds. Today is October 16, 2025. We are in fall and the weather is turning, my friends. It was 27 when I got here this morning. It is now later in the day. It's warmed up a little bit, but definitely still very cold. You can sense the crispness in the air. Fall is coming and then winter is coming, my friend. Oh, this is beautiful. The world-class, incredible, dream day use picnic shoreline of Cultus Lake. This is epic. Can I interest you in an alpine lake beach wonderland? I'm sitting here on the shoreline of Cultus Lake here in Deschutes National Forest, Central Oregon. Something about the way this particular lake is situated, where the wind makes the waves crash up against the shore, is absolutely beautiful. I love the way they've designed this. They have these rustic logs strewn about the shoreline. They have high quality day use rustic picnic sites. This absolutely incredible beach. Look at how absolutely beautiful this incredible lake is. So I want to point out this beautiful sun peeking above Deschutes National Forest, all its mighty splendor lighting up this wonderland zone. Oh, this is gorgeous. Particularly high quality water sport zone for boating, kayaking, canoeing, rafting. We love this area. I would say of all the lakes here in Central Oregon, this lake gives the strongest Oregon coast vibes. Feels like you're in a little section, a little swath of the Oregon beach, the Oregon coast. You just happen to be in the high alpine country in Central Oregon, Cascade Lakes Scenic Byway, Deschutes National Forest. This area, my friend, is absolutely beautiful. Good morning from Cultus Lake. I'm here in Deschutes National Forest, Central Oregon. It's about 9:30 a.m. A little bit of ethereal mist on Cultus Lake. Today is October 21st, 2025. In the last week or so of the season, campgrounds are closed. It's 30 degrees out. Nevertheless, thought I'd get one more trip here down to Cascade Lake Scenic Byway. Enjoy the beauty that is Cultus Lake. Say goodbye for the summer season as the Snowmageddon comes in, closes this area down for the next 8 to 9 months. This is beautiful.